They say blood is thicker than water. That family is supposed to be your safe place, your shelter from the storm. For 32 years, I believed that with every fiber of my being. I thought my older sister, Melanie, was my anchor, the one person who would never let me drown. I was wrong, so devastatingly wrong, because last year I found out that while I was trying to keep our family afloat, she was busy selling the anchor and me along with it. She took out a loan for $623,000 in my name, and when I found out, I stayed silent. To understand the betrayal, you have to understand the bond. I'm the youngest of two girls. My dad passed when I was 12. He left behind a decent life insurance policy and a paid-off house in a suburb of Cleveland. My mom worked double shifts as a nurse to keep us comfortable, but she never really got over losing him. She poured all her love into making sure Melanie and I stayed close. And we did. Mel was 4 years older. She was the bold one, the risk-taker. I was the quiet one, the fixer, the one with the steady job in accounting. By the time I was 25, I had a respectable credit score, a decent 401k, and a small condo I'd bought myself. Mel, on the other hand, was a dreamer. She wanted to be a restaurateur. She tried opening a food truck, then a little cafe. They never really took off, but she had this charisma. You couldn't stay mad at her. 3 years ago, our mom got sick. Fast, aggressive cancer. The medical bills started piling up, but thankfully Mom had the house. She was adamant about one thing. The house was to be kept in the family. It was our legacy. "Don't you two ever sell it," she whispered to us from her hospital bed. "It's the only roof we all share." When she passed, the grief was a physical weight on my chest. Melanie took it harder. She cried for weeks. I tried to be strong. I handled the funeral, the paperwork, the probate. That's when I found out Mom had left the house to both of us, jointly. No mortgage. Free and clear. Valued at the time at about $410,000. Mel looked at me with those tear-filled eyes and said, "I can't go back there. It smells like her. I'll lose my mind. You live there, Claire. You've always been the responsible one. Just take care of it for us." It made sense. My condo was small, and the house was big and empty. I agreed. I moved in. I paid the property taxes, the utilities, the maintenance. I spent $15,000 of my own savings on a new roof. I considered it my contribution to the family legacy. Melanie, meanwhile, moved to the city. She got a job managing a trendy downtown bistro. She seemed to be healing. We'd talk once a week. She'd ask about the house, tell me she missed Mom, and then talk about her new connections in the city. She always had big plans, a new concept, a new investor. "I'm networking for us," she'd say. "When I make it big, I'm buying you a beach house." I never asked her for a beach house. I just wanted my sister back, but I believed in her. I really did. I thought her big break was just around the corner. Then, about a year ago, the letters started arriving. At first, I thought it was junk mail. Pre-approved credit card offers addressed to me. But these were different. They were from a bank I didn't use. I opened one. It was a statement for a home equity line of credit. A HELOC. The amount listed was astronomical. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. I figured it was a glitch, or maybe identity theft that was caught early. The statement showed an address listed as my mother's house, but the name on it was a jumble of mine and Melanie's. It had to be a mistake. I called Melanie. "Hey, weirdest thing. I got a bank statement for a huge loan. Has your identity ever been messed with?" There was a pause on the line, just a beat too long. "Oh my God, no," she said, her voice dripping with concern. "That's terrifying, Claire. You need to freeze your credit. People are savages. It's probably just a scam. They send those to everyone. Shred it." I trusted her. Of course I did. I shredded the letter. I even went online and froze my credit with the 3 major bureaus, just to be safe. It took 20 minutes. I felt responsible, like I'd dodged a bullet. But then, 2 months later, another letter. A thicker one. This time, it was a notice of default. It said the payments on a $623,000 home equity line of credit, secured by the property at my mother's address, were 90 days past due. The primary borrower was listed as me. My stomach dropped through the floor. This wasn't junk mail. This was real. I drove straight to the bank. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. At the bank, a polite but stern loan officer pulled up the file. She showed me the application. It was all there. My social security number, my driver's license number, my employment history. But the signature? It wasn't mine. It was close, a decent forgery, but the C was wrong. I always loop my CS. This one was sharp like a lightning bolt. Melanie always drew lightning bolts in her notebooks as a kid. My blood ran cold. I didn't sign this, I whispered to the loan officer. My identity has been stolen. They launched into their fraud protocol. They asked if I knew anyone who might have had access to my personal information. My mind was screaming, but my mouth wouldn't say her name. Not yet. How? How could she have gotten all this? Then I remembered. When Mom was in the hospital, Melanie had stayed at my condo for a few weeks to be closer. She'd used my computer to file her unemployment. She must have gone through my files, my tax returns, my W-2s. It was all in a filing cabinet I never locked. Why would I? It was my home. My sister was my guest. The fraud investigator, a man named David with kind eyes, laid it out for me. You are not liable for this debt. This is fraud. We will pursue the criminal who did this. However, he paused and my heart sank. The lien is on the property. The house is collateral. If the loan isn't paid, the bank will be forced to initiate foreclosure proceedings on the house. My mother's house. My home. The legacy. It was on the line because of a $623,000 loan I never took out. I felt like I was going to throw up. I left the bank and drove to Melanie's apartment in the city. I didn't call first. I just showed up. She opened the door wearing a silk robe, looking relaxed. Her apartment was different, filled with new furniture, a massive TV, art on the walls. Claire, what a surprise, she beamed. Then she saw my face. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I walked past her into the living room. Nice place, Mel. This view must cost a fortune. Oh, this? My boyfriend helps out. It's nothing, she said, waving a dismissive hand. I turned on her. The bank sent me a letter. For a $623,000 loan on Mom's house, Melanie, with my name on it. The color drained from her face for a split second, and then, like a switch, the waterworks started. It was the most terrifying performance I have ever seen. Oh, Claire! Oh my God! I was going to tell you. I was going to fix it, she sobbed, grabbing my arms. It was a mistake. A friend of mine, he's a loan officer. He said we could use the equity to invest, to double our money. He said it was a technicality, that we'd pay it back in 6 months. I was going to surprise you with the profits. I was doing this for us. For us? She stole my identity, forged my name, put our mother's house at risk, and racked up a debt larger than most people earn in a decade for us? Where is the money, Melanie? I asked, my voice deadly calm. She sniffled. The investment, it fell through. The partner backed out. But I have a plan. I have a new investor for my restaurant, a real one this time. As soon as that money comes in, I'm paying it all back. Please, Claire, please don't ruin me. If you go to the police, I'll go to jail. I'll lose my job. I'll have a record. Please, I'm your sister. I'm all you have left. And that's when it hit me. That's when the strange calm settled over me. The police. The fraud investigation. That would take months, maybe years. In the meantime, the bank would foreclose on the house. The house would be sold at auction. I'd lose everything. And Melanie? She'd probably get a slap on the wrist, probation, and be out in a year, free to do it again. That wasn't justice. That wasn't revenge. That was just more pain for me. So I made a decision. A crazy, insane decision. I looked at my sister, her face blotchy from crying, and I said, "Okay, Melanie, I'll stay silent." Her face lit up with relief. "Oh, thank you. Thank you. I promise I'll make this right." "But," I said, holding up a finger, "you are going to pay me back. Every single cent. I want a signed promissory note. I want a payment plan. And I want the house signed over to me, solely." She hesitated for a second, but she was so desperate to avoid prison, she agreed. The next day, we went to a notary. She signed a document acknowledging the debt of $623,000 plus interest, with a monthly payment plan, and she signed a quitclaim deed, giving me her 50% ownership of the house. On paper, I was now the sole owner. She thought she was getting away with it. She thought I was just the same old pushover, forgiving little sister. She made the first payment, $3,500. I have no idea where she got it. Probably from that boyfriend she kept talking about. She made the second payment, but then, by the third month, the text started. "Can I skip this month? The restaurant needs new ovens. Can we lower the payment? Things are tight." I held firm. A deal is a deal, Melanie. But I wasn't just sitting around collecting checks. I was watching. I was waiting. I hired a private investigator, a quiet, gray-haired man named Mr. Kowalski, who didn't ask too many questions. I gave him one job: find out where that $623,000 went. It took him 3 weeks. The report he gave me was a masterpiece. Melanie hadn't invested the money in a restaurant. She hadn't lost it to a bad partner. She had spent it. $90,000 went to pay off her credit cards and student loans. $120,000 went to lease a brand new Mercedes and furnish her apartment. $200,000 was a down payment on a small, run-down commercial property in the city, a property she had bought in her own name. And the remaining $213,000? Gone. Wired to an offshore account she'd opened on a trip to the Bahamas 6 months before she took out the loan. She was planning this for months. I had her. I had proof of fraud, proof of the stolen money, and proof of her assets purchased with that money. But I still stayed silent, because I knew if I went to the police now, they'd seize the commercial property, the car, everything. It would be sold to pay restitution to the bank, and the bank would be made whole. They'd drop the charges, Melanie would get probation, and she'd walk away with nothing, but I'd get nothing too. I wanted more than restitution. I wanted her to feel the same gut-wrenching loss I felt when I saw that letter. I wanted her to lose something she loved. Then, 6 months later, an opportunity fell right into my lap. Melanie called me, giddy with excitement. "Claire, you won't believe it. My big break. Remember that commercial property I told you about? I finally have a tenant. A huge, successful bakery chain wants to lease it. They're signing a 10-year lease. I'm going to be a landlord. I'm going to be rich." My heart started pounding. This was it. The property she bought with my stolen money was about to become her golden goose. It was going to be her security, her retirement, her legacy. She was going to live off that rental income for the rest of her life. A life funded by my identity, my mother's house, and my pain. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't let that happen. But I had to be smart. I had to be patient. I stayed silent just a little longer. I waited until the lease was signed. I waited until the bakery chain had spent $100,000 renovating the space. I waited until Melanie had posted all over social media about her investor genius, tagging the bakery, tagging the city magazine that did a profile on her. She was at the peak of her happiness. That's when I made my move. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. I went to a different kind of lawyer, a civil litigation attorney, a pit bull named Ms. Rodriguez. We filed a lawsuit in civil court, not for the money, but for the property. We presented the private investigator's report to the court. We showed the trail of money from the fraudulent loan on my mother's house directly to the purchase of that commercial building. We invoked a legal principle called constructive trust. The argument was simple. Since the money used to buy the building was stolen from me, the building itself rightfully belonged to me. Melanie was served the papers at the grand opening of the bakery. The photographer from the local paper caught the moment her smile froze. I saw the picture online. It was beautiful. She called me, screaming, "What are you doing? You're ruining me. I'll lose everything." I stayed silent, Melanie, I said, my voice calm and quiet. "Just like you asked. But you didn't pay me back. You bought a building. Now I'm taking it back." The legal battle lasted 4 months. She hired a lawyer, but he was no match for Ms. Rodriguez. We had the paper trail. We had the notarized promissory note where she admitted to owing me the money. The judge saw right through her. He ruled in my favor. The commercial property was placed into a constructive trust. It was mine. But here's the twist she didn't see coming. I didn't want to be a landlord. I didn't want that building. I wanted justice. So, the day the title was transferred to my name, I called the bakery chain. I introduced myself as the new owner. They were worried. They thought their lease was in jeopardy. I told them, "Your lease is safe. In fact, I'd like to offer you a deal. A one-time offer to buy the building outright. For $400,000. They jumped at it. $400,000 was a steal for a fully renovated property with a long-term lease. They wired the money within 2 weeks. I took that $400,000 and I walked straight to the bank that held the fraudulent loan, the one threatening to foreclose on my mother's house. I sat down with the branch manager. I slid the cashier's check across the desk. "I'm here to pay off the Hellick on my property," I said. The manager was stunned. "But the fraud case, the debt isn't yours." "I know," I said, "but the house is, and I want the lien released today." They processed the payment, the $623,000 loan, plus all the interest and fees was paid in full. My mother's house was free and clear. It was mine. Melanie, of course, was left with nothing. The bank, now that the loan was paid, dropped their interest in the criminal case. But the damage was done. The boyfriend left her when he found out she was a fraud. She lost her apartment. The last I heard, she was working as a waitress at a diner on the other side of town. She tried to call me a few times. I never answered. She didn't just steal my name. She tried to steal my home, my security, my peace of mind. She gambled with my life. It's been a year now. I still live in my mother's house. The roof I paid for keeps the rain out. The garden, she planted blooms every spring. I took the remaining money from the sale. After paying the loan, there was still some left, and I set up a small scholarship in my mom's name for local kids who want to go into nursing. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Melanie. I wonder if she understands. I wonder if she knows that the silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. It was the most powerful weapon I had. They say that blood is thicker than water, but I've learned that respect is thicker than blood. And peace? Peace is the thickest of all. I stayed silent so I could save my home. And in the end, I saved myself. If this story taught you anything, let it be this. Protecting what's yours isn't about being loud. Sometimes the quietest people are the ones you should never, ever cross. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more shocking revenge stories. And watch the next story on your screen now.